Hello everyone, I'm going to take you through my build here. I turn a Harbor Freight ball peen hammer into a Tomahawk. This is a Harbor Freight ball peen hammer into a Tomahawk. So I removed it from the handle and it was actually swedged on there pretty good. And this is the 20 ounce, so the 24-ounce ball peen. It's one of the bigger ball peen hammers. So I throw it in my furnace. Now, before I forge this out, I'm actually going to flatten the sides here because I'm going to forge weld some twist Damascus on either side. I want this tomahawk to have a Damascus pattern with with just a plain steel core or a high carbon core. So I flatten this out and I flatten these sides just wide enough so I can cut a couple of thick tiles and forge weld out some tiles. So once this is flattened out, I do profile here. You can see here I do this press to kind of create a little more of a radius transition on the top. So I have a piece of previous twist Damascus I've made in another video, and I cut two little tiles out, and I'm just going to TIG weld them here. This is autogenous welding. It's a pretty fancy word for fusion welding. So there's no filler rod. This filler rod will contaminate this, so to speak. Filler rod, most filler rod is ER70S is the most common filler rod used in steels. And you can get there's lots of other steel choices for filler rod, but a lot of them aren't heat treatable and they'll affect the pattern. You'll see a visual kind of discontinuity where the filler rod was added. So whenever I do these kind of types of forging, I I use a fusion weld all the way full circumference so no oxygen can get into that in between there. So this is what it looks like. It's been fusion welded all the way around. It's all sealed, and I cleaned those surfaces pretty good. I ground them till they were nice and shiny, bare metal, and cleaned them before doing the fusion weld. So here's my first press, pressing this little Damascus tiles here, and I'm not quite to forging weld temp on this. This press is just to kind of make sure I eliminate any air gaps and make sure it's kind of fully seated together before I get it to forge weld temp, which you'll see on a subsequent press here. Now look, I'm kind of radiusing that. Sometimes if you press those hard shaped corner edges on a tile into another metal, it won't fuse properly. So if you can see here, I'm actually taking my rounding dies and I'm trying to kind of smooth the transition back so it blends back in once it's blended. Now here, this is my forge welding press right here. This fuses this together. After this press, you can feel it. It's totally homogeneous and it's one piece. So that was that press right there. Now I'm going to start kind of drawing this out. This was a little finicky. I didn't have a lot of material to work with on the edge of this hammer. So I had to be very selective, and I actually finished shaping by hand. I couldn't quite get the exact kind of direction and force I needed on the press, so I finished it by hand. But here is, I'm going to elongate this out first and get it close, and then I'm going to turn, and you can see here I'm going to do a sideways press to flatten that out and widen. As the tomahawk blade, kind of widens as it goes out. So here you can see in this press operation right here, I'm kind of widening it. So I got the piece in the front of the press. Now I did another heat here, and I'm doing this press here, and I got this up to forge welding temp on this heat too. I wanted to make sure that those Damascus on each side, it was fully fused on those edges. I didn't want any cold shut or any delamination to occur on the edges. So once I had it the width I wanted, I do a little bit of lengthening here. And this came out, this is a pretty stout tomahawk blade. It was almost a 1/4 inch thick. I ground it back. You've seen a video, I'm under quarter. but it was still a pretty substantial blade. I was a little concerned. This Tomahawk is going to be used for throwing and chopping, but I was concerned it would be too forward heavy. But it turned out to be just right. I ended up drawing out the small section on the back into a spike. Here you can see I had to do that by hand. I tried it with my press. I was having some limited results. I needed some real accuracy, fine tune this, and get this drawn out. So it took a little bit of time, but I drew that ball out into a spike on the backside, and you can actually throw that Tomahawk either direction and it'll stick. But I draw this spike out. It's kind of a four-sided spike, and I did it all by hand. And just to get to get them lined up with the sides and everything. Now I did a couple of heats. I finished off kind of the shaping of this. I could not quite get it perfect with the press. So I'm on my little DIY anvil here. It's made from railroad track. Don't judge me. It's if you do some price check on some anvils out there, they're expensive. So this one works for what I need it. So here is the finished forging. It's kind of mocked up on the old hammer handle. And so kind of this is just I just rough ground with a flap disc and got the scale off. So you can see I have some little Sharpie drawn out there, the pattern I'm going to make this. So I gear up with my respirator and goggles, and there's quite a bit of grinding on this. And Tomahawks are kind of finicky. Each little radius, little transition from the blade into the main part where the handle fits needs to be shaped and ground and then polished, and then the transitions. There's just a lot of curved surfaces on hammers and hatchets and axes. There's just a lot of different little transition areas that need to be ground. But now this isn't finished ground, but this is close. This is getting ready for heat treat. I'm getting ready to drop this in the heat treat right now, but you can see a little bit of the patterning here, guys, just barely. From the grinding you can see it, but this patterning came out like phenomenal. You'll see in a shot here, but it's getting ready to go in the heat treat right now. I'm real happy with the shape, the thickness, everything is straight and lined up and all parallel and square and all that. I had to do a little bit of fine tuning on that socket to make sure my handle fit up would be proper. And I actually should have enlarged that hole a little more, but it turned out fine. So here's the heat treat. I waited until it was non-magnetic, and then did a quench. Look at this pattern. This pattern came out. It's a little different on each side, even though it was from the same piece of Damascus. The orientation or how I draw it out could have been just slightly different. And look at this pattern, guys. This is just phenomenal. So it just has a high carbon steel core, but the sides are this Damascus. I really like that point on the back. It came out. The balance of this actually came out really nice. Really nice. It's a little heavier than a traditional Tomahawk is. That socket area is usually a little lighter for Tomahawks. But look at this pattern, guys. This came out beautiful. This is straight out of the etch tank right here. You guys are seeing. So here's the handle fit up. And I did purchase a handle. I had some hardwood pieces I could have used, but I wanted to get this video up, and I wanted to actually practice doing some practice throws. So I just went and purchased a handle. It was like $9. It was a hickory handle. It was actually made for a machinist hammer, and here it is. After I left it sticking out. Normally people trim those back flush, the handle, but I let it stick out a little bit. I popped in my wedges, and that was a real solid lockup. As a matter of fact, I did like 50, 60 throws with this. No problem with the handle whatsoever. And I did a little flame heat, burn that wood, and then a light sand back and with some oil finish on that handle. It came out beautiful. So here's some practice throws, guys. This is the raw video. I'm not editing this. These are just, I actually have spent quite a bit of time throwing hatchets and tomahawks. I include some of my misses in here. But I did an afternoon of throwing on this. So this was thrown repeatedly, and the handle, everything was blocked up tight, and no looseness or nothing like that. So the handle came out really good. I did some chopping tests. I didn't include it in this video, but um, so this throws. I thought it was a little forward heavy when I was forging this, but it turned out perfect. This throws perfect. I'm about 10 feet. I should have panned back more for these shots so you could see the distance. So I paced it out. I'm about 10 to 12 feet from this dead. This is like a dead stump, kind of. Um,
That was deep.
and so this thing throws. It throws beautifully. The balance is perfect, and you can actually throw it. It'll stick from the spike end or on the blade end too. So, and I haven't thrown hatchets in a while, so I was a little rusty, but I started really getting my groove back when I was about throw 20 to 30. I really started getting my groove back on these, and my accuracy improved significantly too. I started really, and then once my accuracy and consistency got good, I was really throwing this, and I was getting some of these sticks were deep into this log. But I let my daughter have a few tries, and I think it was a little too heavy for her. If I would have made it lighter, like a more traditional tomahawk, it's just a little lighter than this,
Oops.
um, then I think she wouldn't have had a problem with it because the balance was excellent on it. The handle length was just right, and so. But anyway, I did I did quite a few throws on this and a bunch of chop tests and really kind of abused this thing. Um, Here's one of my daughter's throws right here, where it almost
Just
got it.
a little more force,
Yeah.
you would have had that one.
So here is the tomahawk after a bunch of chopping tests, a bunch of throws. I mean, like 50-ish throws, maybe more. A bunch of abuse. Chopping up 2x4s and logs, and I really ran this thing through the ringer. Let me know what you think. Uh, Give me a comment down below and tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you think. And I really appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.